But your shiny eyes reveal the simple truth.
It was about this time, about today, that many people would have started to think, well, there should be a race of some kind. There should be a race which maybe holds some incredibly quick vehicles going at around 330 kilometers an hour around a desert racetrack, an oasis of talent and an abundance of youth. However, that is not the case, and unfortunately, with the global scenario that has presented itself in front of us, we have been robbed of that opportunity. Or have we? Because we see for right now, this very second here, you are watching World Pro Racing and the Thrustmaster World Pro Racing short series here on World Pro Racing's YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitch, meaning that racing action isn't too far away, and we will be giving you exactly what you had hoped for only a few months ago. It's time to see what these drivers are capable of. 5 races in this championship, a short series, half race distance for 30 laps here today. And what is incredibly important about this battle, about this track that we have today, is that we start in the desert of Bahrain, and this will be a very interesting battle in the World Pro Racing F19 that will be going out here today. A very much test for the moment, which will find its improvements the longer that a series will go on for it. But for the time being, I, of course, am Jake Sperry, and I will be the one guiding you throughout proceedings here this afternoon, as everybody will be looking at this event as the one to keep up in mind. Of course, we're not just racing for fun here today. There is very important prizes on the line, and that important prize comes in the form of a Thrustmaster FFB Pro, which is going to be something really really exciting to have as these drivers look to all make sure that they get themselves up to a level that they feel is comfortable to pull themselves into tension. However, contention is going to be decided by the form book, and the form book cannot be set until we get ourselves to racing action. Right now, we find ourselves in practice at the moment in this event, which is, of course, sponsored by Thrustmaster and is also supported by Gaming Malta, Visit Malta, and Melita as well. Of course, I have said before, I'm Jake Sperry. We've got Justin Missard on the cameras for us. Chief stewarding being done by Adrian Fagayo as our race director, and of course, stewarding as well done by George Muscat also. This is going to be a tough race. It's 30 laps. No mandatory pit stop is to be required over the course of racing action here today. But what these drivers know and understand is that they have to get to grips with the vehicle incredibly quickly around this wonderful circuit, which is pretty much a cauldron, I think is the right word to say here, a cauldron of overtaking. And overtaking sometimes in events comes at a premium, especially in vehicles that can go this fast. Currently in practice, Craig Baxter holds the fastest time by full 1.3 seconds almost over Argenis Riera at this point in time. A 127.492 sets him a cut above the rest when it comes to this field. I know a few drivers are struggling out there a little bit with trying to slow this car down. A few puffs of smoke continue to be had through quite a number of corners out there on track today, as everything seems to be a very closely fought contest. 20 drivers currently in server looking to try and get their times up onto the boards and to prove exactly how quick they feel that they are going to be over the course of this racing. Ambient temperature and track temperature are exactly the same at this point in time. They are 29 degrees each, which means that this is going to be a true test for quite a few of these drivers. Track temp, not as hot as I would have expected it for the desert dunes, but ultimately here in the daytime, there are no worries about how they are doing at the moment, as all these drivers have their fans in full attendance, watching for everything that they've got going on. Stoyan Barbakov especially, seemingly like he's got a loyal fan base at the moment. He's currently third at the moment in practice, looking to try and find these improvements. But of course, as we know, practice is never a guarantee for how quick anybody is going to be able to go around the circuit here today. They all understand better than anybody else that it will come to qualifying and race pace, and more importantly, sticking it on the island at what is a very big runoff area style circuit, so mistakes are maybe a little less punished than others. But we have just seen a change up to second position goes Luis Felipe Capamangian, which will be very, very solid news for him in terms of the way that he's run. He's always been up near the front in the majority of series that he tends to find himself in, but there are no guarantees to how this race is going to be run out. But these 30 laps even of this race should go by very quickly in the blink of an eye. But you start thinking about now, well, practice is almost all but complete. We're under 2 minutes away from qualifying, which will prove to be a very key battleground in terms of the way that this event is going to be run. And so we'll see how this all plays out into contention. Of course, qualifying is going to be key. It's all about getting out there, getting those laps in very, very quickly, and times can very, very swiftly find themselves in the books. And if you find yourself getting a few poor laps here and there, it might just be of best interest to you to find exactly what is needed in a race format, or rather than qualifying. 20 drivers means it's a fairly decent sized grid here in terms of what's going to be run. And when you're talking about 20 people in a grid, it means that there is that very difficult chance that troubles may occur. Maybe not as much as, say, a 30-car grid, a 40-car grid and such, but as we've seen so many times before, 20 vehicles do more than enough to get themselves in for entertainment purposes. And we will see how these F19s go in their debut outing. But we find ourselves right now watching the likes of, say, Lorenzo Emili, currently in 12th position right now. There is a big disparity in practice at the moment, gaps of 2.8 seconds, 3 seconds, up to Nane Kolas, who is 7 seconds off in practice at the moment. No 107% time, but very much finding himself close, but no real worries at this point. We'll see how his times improve for the qualifying session coming up. 4 drivers yet to set a time. Those are Dom Bessel, Alessio Spinelli, Lorenzo Capellini, and Daniel Well, so those drivers will be keeping their cards close to their chest as Lorenzo Emili moves up into 8th place, as practice is just about to come to a close, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we will be able to move over to more pressing matters in terms of the racing action that we'll be showcasing to you today in this short series, the first round of the championship, and that, of course, will be qualifying, which will be coming up in just a moment's time. And of course, this qualifying is going to be key. Live stewarding, of course, always available, and the lights come on here and the skies darken, which means practice will now turn to qualifying. As now here comes the mad scramble to get themselves onto the front first, as those like Stoyan Barbakov is sat right on the end of pit lane, waits for the lights, and once they go green, which they do right now, he'll be able to rush on out of the pits first and look to try and set some representative lap times, maybe in these track conditions. 30-30 now. The track has warmed up a degree, despite it being dark, as actually Barbakov does get overtaken coming up through turn 2. That will be one of the prime overtaking opportunities here today, going up through turn 1 in through turn 2, as they head themselves over into turn number 4 out on track. It seems like everyone who will be in a scrap and battling will be looking to do so with everything that they have to their capability, as we are a little bit surprised that it's dark, but apparently it's dark now. So it's dark now. We got to look at, though, how drivers are going to be setting themselves up for qualifying laps. Everyone will need just a little bit of track space out there, as they will try and adjust to drivers who are looking to be quick. Craig Baxter is the first driver out on track. He was the fastest man in practice by a comfortable margin, and he will look to do so again as he heads himself through this wonderful turn 11 and then turn 12, which the next right comes up here, and then you've got very ferocious braking zone, quick braking zone into another, what is 100 degrees right before the penultimate straight, which leads into a downhill descent into the final corner, and then the chance to open up a flying lap. 15 minutes was given in qualifying, so this is going to be crucial in terms of the way that this race is going to be run. So we'll see how this all plays out in the long and the short of things, as DRS wide open. That's the drag reduction system in these vehicles to get up to full pace and power, heading through the right of turn 1 and swiftly through 2 and 3 to get up onto the power as much as possible. We'll focus on Baxter for the course of this lap. Watch for your braking marker as you head into turn 4. No lockups there. We've seen quite a few into turn 4 through practice and the warm-ups. Then you got the small kick here, 5, and then you're into the right of 6, the left of 7, down the hill. Very dangerous if you go wide on the left-hand side. Turn 8, ooh, double take there on the apex. Had to be a little bit cautious about the way he was going through, starting to lose the rear end, and then you got this 9 and then into 10. Always incredibly difficult to go side by side along at that section. That's normally the defining point, unless your name happens to be Felipe Giro. But you now head to turn 11, this long left-hander up the hill, always trying to put the power down as early as possible. It's going to kill the rear tyres and the outside tyres on the vehicle before you head through 12. Another long sweeping right-hander, which is going to make life very difficult in 13. And then the run to turn 14 will be the final corner out on this circuit. Very much a paint by numbers finish to the lap. Just a very nice, gentle right-hander to finish off proceedings. And across the line, Craig Baxter will go. Sets the time to beat 1:28 flat as Konrad Zerebiek moves only to third, as Fred Borden moves up into second position on a 29.5. Kapamagian 9/10 behind on a 28.9, which is a little bit refreshing in terms of the news, as Barbakov goes second on a 1:28.5. 28.3. Good lap time there from him. Sam Carpenter up into third position. I think quite a few drivers were holding cards quite close to their chest in terms of what they were able to do in terms of qualifying. Here's Giuseppe Saracino. He moves to second there on a 28.3, and he moves up 14 thousandths clear of Stoyan Barbakov. So that'll be a promising sight for him in terms of the way that lap was going to be run. So your top 5 then is Baxter, followed by Saracino, with Barbakov, Carpenter, and Capamagian in 5th. Alessio Spinelli has actually just gone into 6th place with that time of 29.3. Good enough there, as it seems like we're going to get some close racing going on. Dom Bessel's 35.2, not quite representative at this point in time. Just 3 drivers yet to set some lap times. There's spinner, and I didn't quite see who that was in terms of that spinning just a couple of seconds ago. That was down at turn 7, and that will not be the place that many people would have wanted to see a spin out on track, because that is one of the more flowing nature of that part of the course. And of course, when you find yourself in that flowing nature, the fact that you have to get out of the throttle or move and adjust your line through what is a very paint by numbers section in terms of you are taking one line, and of course the course pretty much leads you and veers you into exactly that line. You know that you do not want to be variating? That's not quite a word. Varying or moving across from the line that you have there in that capable moment in time. Nick Bracci across the line, stays 15th for the moment, 1:31.2, his fastest time for the moment. There are a few regular faces that find themselves here in this division, some would say, in terms of the way that they'll be running for this championship. Of course, no surprises to see the likes of Matthew Galea in racing in 19th position overall yet to set a time. Nathan Mifsud as well seemingly always tends to find himself at a World Pro Racing event. And if you haven't been to a World Pro Racing event before, you haven't seen exactly what is capable of drivers who race in these styles of races here on rFactor 2, then make sure that you give yourself a like and also a subscription as well, so you make sure that you do not miss out on more great content brought to you with World Pro Racing. But of course, everything seems to happen. Maybe even a Twitch subscription if you're watching on Twitch. If you're on Facebook, give it a like, give it a share. Tell your mates mates that everything is going on, and tell them that Jake Sperry sent you. But at the moment, qualifying still going on. Michael Teichmann in 10th position right now on a 29.9. He's only a couple of seconds off, as there are improvements, as Giuseppe Saracino does go ever so slightly quicker, I do believe, as Stoyan Barbakov currently finds himself in 3rd place right now, as Luis Felipe Capamagian moves up to 4th, 7/10 off the pole at the moment, held by Craig Baxter on a 27.7 now, which is good enough in terms of those times. Barbakov, I think, has gone ever so slightly quicker on a 28.378, but has just not found exactly what was needed, and that's not the line that Saracino wants. He ran wide through the final corner, and as such, he will now look to try and find his availabilities again in terms of making the moves as and when needed. Sam Carpenter, though, moves up into 2nd position, 128.323, half a second off at the moment, but needs to find more, and more will be available the longer that this qualifying session will go. It does tend to heat up and speed up this style of circuit, so we'll see how that one all works. And maybe with the drag reduction systems being in full effect for these vehicles, we may see drivers trying to run behind other drivers, like Giuseppe Saracino is at the moment, to try and maximize much as they can going through on straights. But the big worry about that is the corners. Of course, that dirty air effect, ever so prevalent when it comes to Formula style vehicles like these ones. So we will see how that all will play into a big factor, but the longer this race goes on for. Still, though, you've got drivers who are looking pretty good. Fred Borden currently scored in 7th position, just behind Genis Riera in 6th. Riera, a good time of 28.8 at the moment. Link is doing the job at this course, so they all know what they need capable of doing. They all need to charge on forward as they search for the big runs that they have going on in just a little bit at the moment. Borden stays 7th after that lap through. Konrad Zarebiec at the moment in 9th place. Finds himself on a 1:29.6. He's 1.8 seconds, though, outside of pole position at this moment in time, which will not be exactly where he wants to be, but being on the 3rd row of the grid does give you a little bit of help in terms of the way that things have been running at the moment. It has been pretty much stationary at this point in time for a good couple of minutes at the moment. No real worries in terms of times changing too much. In terms of this, Daniele Spaddi, though, has moved up into 10th position, though, on his time of a 1:29.8. That's 2.1 seconds off of pole position at the moment. And, of course, with 30 laps coming up, no mandatory pit stops required. There's going to be some tough battling as they all go on. So we'll see how that one plays out in the long and the short as things continue in terms of time. Zarebiec has moved up, though, into 6th position, and that will be a big plus for him at the moment there. Just now 8/10 off of the pole being set by Craig Baxter, who's going to go out. Just going to try and get another lap in on the board. But still, though, there is that big amount of time that will come in. Just 5 minutes remaining, though, in qualifying. These are starting to gear up to some of the last lap that they will have available. And on top of that, you have to look at these last laps available, because once you start a lap, you are allowed to go and finish the laps that you have available. So we'll see how that all plays out in the long and the short of the way that this is going to be run. But we still have a lot of time, and drivers will all try and have themselves a position here or there. Capellini into 13th, Dean Vella 14th now at the moment, looking to try and find some levels of improvement. Some drivers struggling. Nane Colas and Daniel Merchant both on 135s. They seem to be just struggling a little bit down the order ever so slightly. They will want to need a bit of improvement the more that the races are to go on. And of course, how qualifying goes, sometimes the lap doesn't quite come together, but sometimes it really does, as the likes of Martin Garrido currently out there looking for a first out lap at the moment, and then representative laps will hopefully go and follow on from that position. Moving on forward, we'll see how that all plays into factors at this point in time. But Craig Baxter feeling a little bit unchallenged at the moment as Capellini jumps up to 9th place ahead of Alessio Spinelli there in 10th. That's going to be crucial for the way that that's going to be run as they go through. So not many qualms about the way that is going to be run right now. So Capellini up to 9th position. Will be happy with the times that have come in. Here's Stoyan Barbakov, though, looking to make a push to the line, and does not find improvements on the 28.378 that he was hoping to find. Giuseppe Saracino currently in 3rd position, making his way very, very aggressively through turn number 12 in turn 13. That seemed to be a case of, well, hopefully I'm not going to run into the driver who was planted on the apex there through that right-hand corner. That was Martin Garrido of all people through that section, who was trying to desperately stay out of the way in terms of his outlet. Saracino, though, did go quicker, 1:28.1. There we go, that's a little better. Down the gap is to 0.4 of a second now at the front in qualifying. Not many worries left, though, as there are only 2.25 minutes left. Or sorry, 2.5 minutes, coming down to 2.25 left in this qualifying session. So now, get your best lap out there. Make sure you're out on track quickly and get yourself ready for that outlap, because those outlap are going to be incredibly crucial. The way things are going to be run, likes of Craig Baxter, no real worries, but Konrad Zarebiec moving up into 5th position with his last available lap, or just not going to be his last available lap. He'll get one more in there on a 28.4, but it's going to have to be a very, very quick outlap to get around and exactly where is needed at this point in time. Barbakov to the top 127.759, and he does so by 4 thousandths. That came out of nowhere. Stoyan Barbakov has not shown he's had that sort of pace, and he has found it right when he needed it the most, and that was going to be crucial. We got drivers looking to try and find those improvements up on track. Baxter is going to desperately need to find an extra 4 thousandths. If he's got that in his back pocket, it's not going to be a guarantee here. With a minute and 15 remaining here in this one, Dan Merchant is pretty much done in terms of his times, as other drivers now will be looking to try and make those pushes over to the line at this point. And what's crucial is Saracino now will try and make that push. He'll have one more lap after this to get it all gathered up together. And Saracino, 28-1. Not good enough to gain position at this point. It's Barbakov from Baxter, Saracino, Carpenter, Zarebiec, your top 5, followed then by Capamagian, Riera, Bowden, Spinelli, and Cappellini. That is going to be how it's looking at the moment, but no guarantees of 30 seconds left to go. Drivers will be searching for that start-finish line. Zarebiec is going to be one of them. But you can see here behind Zarebiec how the mad scramble for space on track is starting to come into play here in this one, as there's wiggles going on behind in the background there. Didn't quite catch who that was. 10 seconds left to go. Nathan Mifsud in the mix at the moment. Nick Bracci, I think, is just going to be short in terms of the time that he was looking for. He'll make his way through the final corner and the clock expires on him, so he'll have to try and see if he improves on 16th place as he goes over the line, and he absolutely does there through that section, so he'll be happy with that. Bracci up to 15th overall. Got likes, though, of these drivers there as Cappellini moves 10th overall. You got Capamagian going around, and that's his lap done. Same would be said for Zarebiec. He will not find any improvements on what he wants. Baxter and Barbakov will not find improvements. Their laps are done. Here's Saracino, though, over to the line, and he did go quicker, but not enough. 127.9, good enough to be third position overall. Sam Carpenter, though, runs wide through turn number 10, and his lap has to be abandoned as well. Here's Argenis Riera looking to try and improve from 7th, and he does. He jumps Capamagian. He goes into 6th place, so it leaves Lorenzo Emili, who's spun around, so his lap won't improve. One driver only who can improve will now be Daniele Spardi, who makes his way through the right of turn number 13. Looking for turn 14 out on track, the final corner out there, as he will look to try and find everything that he can. It's currently Barbakov on pole, Baxter second, and Saracino in third. Where will Daniele Spardi finish this one up, with Carpenter fourth and Zarebiec in fifth? The answer to that is no improvements, though. Riera 6th, Capamagian 7th, Bowden in 8th, Spinelli 9th, and Cappellini in 10th. Following that, you've got Emili, Spardi, Bracci, Vella, Teichmann, Mifsud, Garrido, Coles, Merchant, and then Galea and Ball not setting lap time. We're going to step aside, though, very briefly when it comes to World Pro Racing. We'll be back with the fallout from qualifying, the warm-up, and then the main event that we have for this broadcast. 30 laps worth of racing, and it comes up after this. Well, it won't come up after this because there are no adverts, which I have just only worked out. So we'll stay with things at the moment, as it seems like sunrise is on the horizon for everyone in this warm-up, as they will get themselves ready to go, as they will have, I believe, about 10 minutes of trying to work out whether they get themselves all ready and waiting for this session to begin. And it's actually 5 minutes that they get, so it's a very short warm-up session, as they will want to get to racing pretty much straight away. And maybe this is the last chance you're going to get to try and steal some positions. A bit of contact here and there won't help either, so maybe if you are dealing with scraps into turn number 1, you've got to be careful about who is the last on the brakes as they head through the opening couple of corners. It seems like every single battle will be very hard fought for here today, and it seems like this track is always going to be open for big racing, good racing, strong racing around these sorts of tracks. So there aren't many guarantees to be given, to be had at this point in time, but everybody knows that they've got to absolutely monster this opening race in the championship, because they know that with so few rounds, 5 of them only, one small mistake can cost you a title. The driver you are up against is very, very consistent. Worth noting as well that these drivers, they are really going to be pushing here today. And of course, with no mandatory stop, it's going to mean that tyre management and tyre conservation is going to be the name of the game in these vehicles. Some drivers may decide that they might want to take a stop if they want to try and gamble on fresh tyres. We believe that might definitely not be the case. It's like a harder compound of tyre is being run for most drivers. I do see one driver facing the wrong way, and that's Nane Colas, who will start 8th position on the grid when it will come to the race action that will be out on track. So we'll see how that will all play out in the long and the short of things at the moment, as Daniel Merchant also decides he wants to go for a trip exploring the sites of this desert circuit. And this desert circuit has moved about and changed from variation to variation. Of course, back in 2010, 2009 maybe it was, can't quite remember, but they did used to run the even longer endurance layout for 1 year in the Formula One World Championship. That, of course, not being retained for the season after. One race was missed here in Bahrain in 2011, my memory wants to say it was, due to the fact that there was civil unrest in the area. But this track has proven time and again to be one of the key places where great battling has happened. You talk about storied rivalries in terms of scraps. You talk about Hamilton and Rosberg's thriller that they had between each other around this track on differing tyre compounds. This is one of those circuits that can provide brilliant and entertaining racing throughout the majority of the races that you see. So this is going to be a true test for these drivers. They know what they need to do. They know what they have to all go out and do. And of course, one of the features that has come to this Bahrain International Circuit has been those lights, and very much like driving down the street, but then you realise that the streets are powered to 100 times brighter than you thought they would be. And on top of that, it doesn't look very dark at all in terms of light illuminate up circuit, especially this circuit and these vehicles, which very clearly do not have headlights. And I would love to see at some point in time, just part of the macabre of my imagination, just see a Formula One style vehicle with pop-up headlights on the front wing. Sometimes that is something that I think maybe it goes through me a little bit, but sometimes you have a little bit of fun with imagining certain things with these vehicles. But like Dan Merchant, Nane Colas in at the back of the field as they look to try and get some practices in, maybe work on a start or two, maybe try and practice that pit entry if they are ever going to be in need of diving down onto the lane. Make sure they know where their escapes are, might be the best place to come and describe it for those who are going to be running offline, as all these drivers are going to be looking for any opportunity they can to move on forward and get exactly what they want out of a race, which is going to be a pretty big win to open up proceedings. But we are, of course, just 30 seconds away from the start of the gridding up procedures. All of these drivers know they've got 30 laps to go out there and make a name for themselves and really try and drive their feet off of everything they can. Of course, there will be a formation lap that will come along first from a standing start, so they're going to have to be pretty much on it from the wrong battles that they will have going on. So we'll see how that goes on. So there's wrong battles, there's right battles, there's every type of battle that's going to go on, and these drivers are going to try and explore it as much as possible. Warm-up, though, is complete at this point in time, so we are going to be taking you over very shortly to the formation lap and, of course, starting grid for this style of racing here this afternoon. And, of course, you can check out more racing and more action that'll be coming up every single stage of the way for these 5 weeks that this championship will be running. So Barbakov on the pole, Craig Baxter alongside with Giuseppe Saracino in third and Sam Carpenter in fourth. It's Konrad Zarebiec in fifth place with Argenis Riera in sixth. Luis Felipe Capamagian in 7th, with Fred Borden in 8th. Then it's Alessio Spinelli in 9th, and Lorenzo Capellini in 10th position. Another Lorenzo in 11th on row 6. That's Lorenzo Emili, with Daniele Spardi making it 4 Italian. 4 positions. Nick Bracci in 13th with Dean Vella. Then it's Michael Teichmann, Nathan Mifsud as the formation lap begins. And then you've got the likes of Marta Garrido, Nane Cola, and then Daniel Merchant and Matthew Galea for this race. But no guarantees for these drivers. They will try and get their tyres up to temperature, making sure that everything is working and okay when it comes to this formation lap, and they're trying to make sure that everything works out well for them in the bright sunny sun that has come about from this wondrous Bahrain International Circuit, which came on the calendar all the way back in 2004 for the Formula One World Championship. And it is very surprising in my mind to see that this circuit is so old now in terms of its history and its legacy, because this track now, by my maths, and commentators aren't very good at math, comes out to being 70 years old at the moment, and maybe a little more come the end of this year. So we'll see how that plays out. At the moment, you've got these drivers just getting themselves ready, heading through the back stretches, multiple layouts for this. Of course, you've got that back stretch which leads to a north side circuit, which can always be very, very entertaining in terms of the way that these races are going to be run. So we'll see who finds the improvements, who gains the places that needs to be gained, and who will cement themselves as the benchmark for every other driver in this field. This is going to be a tough fought race for these drivers, for the team, and they all want to try and go out there and prove to absolutely everybody else that this race is going to be absolutely ours, they will all say. And of course, there are going to be so many people who will want to see this race run in the way that they want it to. And of course, that victory is going to be in the minds of so many drivers. Still though, around the final corner, and they will look to try and find their grid stalls up now, as they will be very, very patient. And I think Stoyan Barbakov has maybe slightly quick over the course of his pace lap. He's got a few bits of gap compared to the other drivers that are behind. He is going to be stood very much down on his starting grid stall for a very long time. I believe he'll be there for almost a minute as he lines it up nicely as runs turn 1. It's going to be very crucial in terms of the way that this race is going to be needed to be done. So thank you for joining us here on all of our social media platforms, and of course where this is all being seen. Everything though is going to be as it should be though. Strong racing, 30 laps here at the Bahrain Grand Prix circuit, and it will start just about long wait here as they wait for the procedure. Here's the lights, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So there you can see some engine notes rising as they get themselves going and they get themselves underway. Barbakov gets a good start, but Baxter's going to be equal to him every stage of the way here towards turn number 1. This is going to be tough here on the brakes, and I think that Baxter's got this one down on the inside. He has to go through. No real jumps. They head through the opening corner. Barbakov almost contact there as Kapamagian has already got himself up into 3rd position. Zarebiec and Saracino now trying to fight it out as they head into turn 1. Baxter still having to fight this one as Barbakov runs wide through turn 4, and suddenly Kapamagian down the inside and already fighting for the race lead here as he tries to go into the right here as he goes along. No real worries. Zarebiec around the outside goes Saracino and will try and take 4th position. Trying to look down the inside. Contact between the two. Saracino has to cut the course, and then Sam Carpenter picks up a position as well. Back to the lead. Kapamagian 2nd. Barbakov in 3rd. Then it's Zarebiec, and then Carpenter's 5th. And there goes Saracino again, struggling on cold tyres in 6th position. Now down to 7th and 8th place. Overall struggling in the opening lap then of this 30 lap battle. You got also the likes of Teichmann trying to find a way through here on Nick Bracci, Capellini, and Borden at the moment in a scrap as well, but no real changes there going on. All turn 1, lap 1 contacts and incident will be reviewed after the race as per the race steward, but this has been a good opening lap from Craig Baxter. He got through exactly where he needed to, and now time to focus, Scotsman. It's now all about moving on forward for the next few laps and breaking 1 second overall at the moment. Sam Carpenter, no DRS until the 3rd lap, will move immediately to the inside. Move trying to be made. Is he good enough on the brakes? No is the answer, but wide goes Carpenter. And huge bit of contact there with Zarebiec. And Zarebiec has got the move done. Another battle a little bit further down in the pack. You got Martin Garrido now trying to get past Daniele Spardi. This for 15th place as they head up turn number 4. Is there going to be a chance to make the move done? No, there is not. But here's Dan Merchant under pressure, and Matthew Galea will comfortably get the move done for 18th place, right down at the back of the pack. But Craig Baxter already pulling out that gap to over a second right now as he heads down into turn number 10 and looks to try and continue in terms of his development in this race and move on the way he needs to. Spinelli currently is the train, has Saracino, Borden, and Riera there. And contact in the background there. 2 around. Martin Garrido was one of them, and he's got more contact with Spardi, and now Galea getting caught up. Let's get a look at exactly how that one happened then. So let's look at this then from Garrido's perspective. He was trying to get through on Daniele Spardi. He was a long way back, and he's just missed his braking point, collected him from behind. So just like that, the race not going well. Can I go? Can I go? Then there's the contact there with Matthew Galea, and there is the dramas that unfold in terms of that little attempt out on the road. Side by side, though, Zarebiec and Carpenter back at it again with the overtakes as Carpenter back into 4th is through onto Rebiec. Behind that, though, Emili under pressure here with Saracino, and Emili sliding all the way through, trying to get it slow, and Saracino picks up 6th position pretty quickly. Riera, Spinelli goes around, he's lost his rear wing. Spinelli's lost his rear wing, and so how has that happened in terms of the way he was going? Did he get hit from behind into turn number 1? Maybe, perhaps, as he goes down in on the brakes. What's he run into from behind? It's a horrible act there with Fred Borden, who lost his front nose, trying to deal with all of that. So Borden now, his race will have to be added a pit stop for a front wing. Spinelli will have to go for a rear wing out on circuit. So disasters for both of them as they look at their races, and they have changed as there has been a spin. And again, it's Saracino in 6th position. It does bring Emili back into that fight, 6th and 7th. At the moment, Saracino does not like this car through the slow corners, and it feels very much like it is oversteering with every single opportunity for a couple of these drivers. So we'll keep an eye on that as racing does progress and continue here out on track as we head towards the end of lap number 2 and through 3 laps completed. They will be solid right now. Craig Baxter currently in control by 2 seconds at the front of this field, with Barbakov in 3rd. Kapmajian is in 2nd position overall at the moment. But still, though, it's going to be a case of now trying to find a medium. Carpenter's run too deep into turn 1, so his chance on Konrad Zarebiec is pretty much non-existent at this moment. So you'll have to go and sit and wait for better opportunities at the moment, as it seems like Bodwin at the moment could be in line for a penalty at this point in time, from what I'm hearing from the stewards, which would not be ideal in terms of the way that was gone. So Fred Borden will get a 10-second stop and go penalty, add on to the troubles of the fact that he finds himself without a front nose, and he is down in on pit lane along with Alessio Spinelli. So both of them, their races have gone from bad to absolutely diabolical, as Nathan Mifsud, he finds the barrier at turn 10. I think he's got away with it. I think there's damage to the front wing, though. It is missing or so to speak. So Nathan's going to have to come in, get a new wing defender, and get himself back out and going one more time. That was disastrous in terms of going through that section of road for him, but he knows that there is a lot of time to be had. Mane Colas is already scored as 1 lap down after just 4 laps worth of racing. So Craig Baxter, well, he's getting them done pretty quickly, I think is the right way to be describing things at this point in time. At the moment, as look at this, Emili trying to defend against Argenis Riera. Riera was almost forced onto the pit exit line. In fact, he was nearly forced further than that in terms of that defence. So good, strong defence there from Lorenzo Emili, but there's not going to be much he will gain from that. This will bring only Lorenzo Capellini back into position in terms of the way that this is going to be run. So Fred Borden does get assigned that stop and go penalty for 10 seconds for the instant that he had running into the back of, we believe that would have been Borden running into Spinelli there, so that would not be ideal for him. But the battle 7th, 8th and 9th continues. Riera has to really get it slowed down there. The back stepping out down the hill through the left-hander. It's always a tough corner, 9 into 10. You're always turning and braking at the same time, and that never is helpful as they go through. Riera comfortable ahead of Capinelli, but Bracci has closed up onto the rear of this group now, so it's a 4-car trade as Emili desperately tries to run away. Saracino getting closer to Sam Carpenter out on track in the battle for 5th and 6th position overall on the road. That's going to be a tough little scrap just to keep an eye out on the longer that this race does go on. We are already on lap 5 completed, so lap 6 of 30. So at the end of this lap, we will be at the 1/5 race distance over the course of this at this point in time. Carpenter still being harassed as here comes Riera trying to deal with Capellini, but Capellini is through and up a position into that 8th place. So Lorenzo Capellini starting to make some progress here at the moment, trying to gain as many places as possible with Argenis Rivera just behind and running wide. And here's a freebie for Nick Bracci, but he's going to have to work for it here into the right-hander. He's got the nose down the inside, and well, have some cookies. That is yours as they go through, as they all look like they are ready to battle and keep themselves in a strong fight for the way that this is going, as the gap at the front of the field extends to 2.7 seconds now between Craig Baxter and Luis Felipe Capamagian at the moment in this race. Stoyan Barbakov in 3rd at the moment on his own right about now. So this is going to be interesting in terms of the way that this is going to be run. Martin Garrido's got lap traffic issues at the moment because Alessio Spinelli, who is a lap down, has the license to unlap himself and use the DRS to do so at the same point, has done so. So there aren't any issues in terms of that unlapping, as he will look to try and just improve on his times and his paces and try and keep himself moving forward. Of course, whenever you are within that 1 second window, you do have DRS available, and Carpenter was using it a little bit too much there under the brakes as he runs slightly wide, as he's got a lot of room down there actually at turn 1. Saracino there, and Capellini getting a huge slide going through turn number 1, trying to gather that back up before Nick Bracci will try and steal that one back with Argenis Riera currently scored in 10th position for the time being. So not quite what is needed at this point in time, but Capellini now looking like he needs to be in a very strong place to try and capitalise on the pace. Stay with Lorenzo Emili, keep the DRS, because the moment he doesn't have it, he's going to be a sitting duck on the long straights here today. No guarantees that big points are going to be coming your way if you're currently in, say, 12th or 13th or anywhere around that, but there is still a lot of time left in this race to go out there and to gather exactly what is needed in terms of pace. But Konrad Zarebiec starting to close that gap back down now to Stoyan Barbakov. This is the battle 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th on the road. Sam Carpenter currently only 0.8 of a second back on Konrad Zarebiec, but that looks like it's a little bit closer than 7/8 of a second overall, as He makes his way over the start-finish line. DRS in full effect. Then as Carpenter will try and work out where he's going to go. He's going to go to the inside then, try and get this move done. And has he got its load up? Yes, he has. But can he carry it around the outside of turn 2? Oh, brilliant overspeed there. No way that Zerebiec was going to fight that one. And suddenly Saracino's going to get a run here. Up the hill towards turn 4, right up to the inside. And he's gone too deep. Bang! Bit of contact there between those two. Zerebiec steals that one back. Saracino under the brakes has been locking it up, putting it sideways at every given opportunity. So he needs to really get it right. And actually something that has happened as well to Argenis Riera here, who has dropped backwards into 10th place behind one driver, and that driver being Michael Teichmann. So he has dropped 2 places. I think that's happened a little bit prior over the course of the racing action. So that's not ideal, but there is still a lot of time left in this race to try and gather it up. In fact, Lorenzo Capellini is all the way back in 11th, so those two had to have come together. There is no ifs, no buts, and no ands about that one in terms of the way that battle has been ending out at the moment. So that's going to be key to keep in mind at the moment. But Sam Carpenter right up onto the rear now here of Stoyan Barbakov. And maybe, just maybe, we are looking at 3rd position about to be changed. The pole sitter Barbakov could be going one way, and that way is backwards at the moment as things look to progress. Here we go, a look under the brakes, and deciding better of it is Sam Carpenter, who's been a little bit late on the brakes, too late into turn 1, but that time not really having any issues at all. Go and speak of. Another chance though is turn 4. Might be a case if you can just get it close. No 3rd DRS zone. Of course, this is the 2014 layout of the circuit, so a 3rd DRS zone is not quite there, as Teichmann has gone wide down at turn 1, and that has dropped him a whole heap of positions. How many? 3 of them to be precise. He's now back down into 12th position. How did that happen though is the question. He goes and hits the brakes, he looks for the corner, and he does a full 360, and he was also followed by Riera, who loses the position to not only Capellini, but it seems like Dean Vella might get himself away through in the GT Omega car. He does not, but nearly. Michael Teichmann running into the back there of Vella, so that wasn't going to be ideal, as there are issues for Stoyan Barbakov, who has dropped 2 more positions out on the road. So Zerebiec has found a way through. So what happened here to Stoyan Barbakov into turn 10? It looked like he was defending the inside, but has he just gone too deep? He has run it too deep and found himself out into the kitty litter, and then there's 2 positions gone just like that. So that's how easy it can be for 3rd positions fall out of the clutches of Stoyan Barbakov, and there was how that all happened out on track. Another little scrap though again as Zerebiec. Oh no, there goes Barbakov straight on at turn number 1, and Saracino's going to pick up a freebie there for that one, as Barbakov really struggling with slowing the car down as he looked for the corner. The corner did not find him through that section of road, so he'll try and get himself back into this race in any manner of ways that he will be able to at the moment. Battle right down the order, 16th and 17th. Right now, these are the last drivers on the leading lap. This is Daniel Merchant and Nathan Mithson at the moment trying to go at it. Of course, Nathan has made a pit stop for front wing changes already here in this race, as Teichmann is out of the race in 13th position. So his troubles have ended in a disaster for him. Got to wiggle through turn number 2, comes up over at turn 3, and that's going to be a disaster. Round he went into the wall, and I think there was some hefty damage there after that hit. He's decided, I'm not going to finish this one. Race is over at the moment, as Garrido actually has gone off in 13th place through at turn 5. Yes, turn 5. Yep, that's right, turn 5 and 6. So he just goes in very shallow, and that looks like it's technical. That looks very technical from Martin Garrido. It looks like he's had a failure of a wheel, and even if you do manage to have a failure of a wheel of some kind, or trying to gather it back up again, might be quite useful for things to get going. So it seems like he's got it all gathered together once again as he goes on, as 10 laps have already been scored now as complete here in this race. So a 3rd distance already done. We're on to start lap 11 now of this event. Third place, though, the battle continues between Konrad Zarebiec and also Sam Carpenter as they will head into turn number 1. Not quite there is Zarebiec to try and make that move happen. So gets a good run up the hill, needs it for turn 4, and maybe there's a lunge to the inside coming, but there was only a look in the mirrors trying to worry and force an error out of Sam Carpenter, but Sam seemingly is made of sterner stuff than that, so he will not be fazed by the way that would have been run overall. Stoyan Barbakov, I believe, has found himself a bit of time behind now, so he finds himself into what is 10th position by what I assume is a pit stop by the way things have done. So Stoyan Barbakov deciding, well, I'm going to charge my way back through this field as quickly as I possibly can. But that does promote Lorenzo Emili into 6th, Nick Bracci 7th, Cappellini in 8th. Now Dean Vella is up to 9th. Barbakov is now in 10th position overall here in this one. Long way to go for a number. Oh my goodness me. Baxter nearly had himself wiped out from the race lead there and trying to work out who it was. It was Daniel Merchant who had gone off right in front of him, and that would have been a scary, scary incident then for Baxter to have come up upon as he headed through turn 3. He was already out of shape through turn 2 and then lost the rears on the AstroTurf, which is not very grippy at all, especially around this track. So that was a disaster, and it very nearly went incredibly wrong there for him. So able to keep going is Merchant, but so is the race leader, who would have very much, if he did have a mandatory pit stop required, need to get a brand new set of overalls if that were to be the case. Carpenter in 3rd, Zarebiec in 4th, Saracino 5th. Emili actually being closed down here by Nick Bracci, who is having a very good run here in 7th position. He's just been picking off drivers one after the other after the other. The gap down to 1.3 seconds between these two, and looking to chase will be the key of this at the moment. And it seems like Daniele Spadi is down on pit road, so he will find himself now taking his stop, and this will be a very, very long stop by the looks of things for Daniele Spadi, who falls behind likes of Mifsud and co, falls a lap down. I wonder if he's had any big dramas or damages or automatic penalties that may have occurred. He comes out and away in 15th position, and he finds himself now 1 lap down in this race and will need a lot of time to gather it all back up again at this point. So keep an eye on that as the race does continue here in the summer sweltering sun. Well, not necessarily summer sun, but it's definitely hot sun, I think is the right way to put it, here in Bahrain, with Craig Baxter leading this event here on lap 12 out of 30. Still, though, a lot of time left to be had then in this race. It can all go so very horribly wrong, but it has been straightforward. It's been the way to describe it for Craig Baxter. 5 seconds! There goes Saracino. He's around, and oh no, Emili's run straight into him. Then both of them will have to come down in onto the lane. Nick Bracci now up into 5th place with that bit of contact. Emili, a huge accident they're going through. I wonder if he's caught massive suspension damage on the front right as well. It seems okay, but those two, Saracino's mistake and no time to react to it. Lorenzo Emili just ploughing straight into him, hoping it would have been cleared up. It certainly was not at that stage. So those drivers, or pretty much most drivers, are going to be getting a promotion of position to get themselves up. Daniel Merchant also in a scrap here, 1 lap down, 16th and 17th. Fred Borden after the 10-second stop and hold and the front nose change, looking to try and get in the battle, but Dan Merchant decides, I am not liking what's going on right now. I'm going to dive down into pit lane, as also Nane Kolas down on the lane and has been for an incredibly long time with an engine issue that puts him out of the race. So in comes those said drivers who run into the troubles, the likes of Lorenzo Emili and also Giuseppe Saracino, both coming in, both for a front wing, both looking to get back out and racing again as quickly as possible. Saracino will search for his box then down on pit lane, will look to try and find it and does so. So no real worries at all. Also in the pits, Argenis Riera, and I believe there's one more driver down there on the lane who was just a lap down, and that was Dan Merchant, of course. So it's a big fight coming off of this pit lane. In fact, they are side by side, actually, coming off the lane here. Riera and Amelie. Amelie does get the better here, so they head into turn number one. That's not going to be whether they want to be scrapping at the moment. So questions remain on whether one stopping this race is going to be key. No such dramas at the front. We haven't seen anything really of Baxter and Capamagian because they find themselves 6 seconds or so split between themselves. Carpenter a further 6 seconds down the road behind that. So been running a good race. We're looking at the halfway stage in the foreseeable future at the moment. So Capellini up into 6th position. Ooh, with a big wiggle as well to boot there. To say that he is in 6th place. 7th is Dean Vella right now. Barbakov up into 8th. Galea 9th. And immediately holding on to 10th position out there on the road. Saracino has come out of his stop. He is back in 3rd place right now, which is not where he wants to out there on the road. One driver is going to come in, and actually 2 drivers are going to come in. So Capellini and also one other driver, Nick Bracci, is going to dive in onto the lane here on lap 14. They're going to feel like tyres are going to be key before getting back out again. The hot conditions seemingly are causing troubles here for tyres, with drivers looking at, okay, we can't afford too many mistakes here. We're not going to lose out too much in terms of the long and the shorts of this race, so we'll make a stop and we'll gain some time back by just being pretty quick, I think is the right way to say. And I think a lot of drivers want to be very much pretty quick around this circuit, but there are no guarantees that these drivers are all going to get there. But you see just how big the margins are. It is now the race leader coming down in for tyres. So Craig Baxter makes the call for a one-stop strategy then here today. Luis Felipe Capamagian will stay out then for another lap and try and get an overcut potentially, as in comes Sam Carpenter on lap 15 here. He will look for the line. Zarebiec will also follow in with the World Pro Racing car there, the GT Omega car even of Nathan Lifson, who will come down in onto the lane. It's Piccadilly Circus though for 9th place. Matthew Galea, Lorenzo Emili, Argenis Riera, all together on the circuit now. That's going to be a little bit concerning and worrying for the way this is going to be run. Here's Emili down the inside. Can he slow it up? Yes, he can. As now Galea is going to be under pressure here as Argenis Riera will try and find a way through. It's going to be a struggle through the big, long right-hander. Dirty Air, huge through this section. And, well, no worries at all then as Galea holds on for the time being. But that could all very change. Barbakov's missing his rear wing. So there is Stoyan Barbakov in trouble here. Was he running into from behind? I wonder at this point. So there was Nick Bracci. Oh, Barbakov just went so deep. Seems like he missed the breaking point by a country mile as he lost out. So he loses out. He's now back into 11th place, having to make a stop. And all of a sudden, that stop that was early is now even more of a disaster. And in fact, it's a brakes issue that he had. He went down through and the car is written off. He will not go any further than that. Saracino, though, they're just getting past lap traffic without any issues, which ran wide, probably Merchant at that point in time. But in comes Luis Felipe Capamagian looking to get overcut the workers. Fred Borden now also out of this race. And how has that happened for him? Well, having a look at it, he was heading up through the big, long right-hander, had a huge moment over the curb once, and then headed through the next left and said, you know what, I think this race is done for me, and decides to pull it over and say, "Day Dunzo" at this point in time. More takers, though, onto pit lane. I believe that will be Galea, I think. No, it's not Galea even. Down on the lane. Someone's on the lane, but we will soon work out who that is. But continuing onwards, though, you've got Luis Felipe Capamagian, who is now behind Craig Baxter and behind by even more than he was. 10 seconds. He was slow on the stop with now just 4 seconds down the road. Sam Carpenter trying to chase that down. Dean Vella yet to make a stop in 4th place. Doesn't need to make a stop, but very much could do by the way that everyone's running. Nick Bracci in 5th, Konrad Zarebiec in 6th position overall. Then it's Cappellini in 7th, and then Lorenzo Emili in 8th. And you've got Argenis Riera in 9th position, and Matthew Galea now rounding out the top 10 out on track. But no real surprises. This race starting to hit an attrition factor here today. 4 retirements: Teichmann, Kolas, Bowden, and also goes Barbakov as well, the pole sitter, retiring with brake failure out on track. No such failures at this point for Craig Baxter, who leads this event quite royally, I think would be the right way to say it at the moment. A quite royal race lead of 10 seconds at the moment out on track. What is going to be key is how he manages that through the remaining 30 laps remaining here in this race. We are on lap 18 here out of 30. Over this one has been complete control from Craig Baxter, as he has done some wonders over the course of this race so far. Luis Felipe Capamanjan in 2nd position, made most of his spots on the start. He went from 7th or 6th place up to 2nd and has not looked back from there. He's still pulling away from Sam Carpenter at the rate of about a second a lap now. So Sam Carpenter knows what gap he's got. He's got 12 seconds in 3rd position over to Dean Vella, who is there in 4th in the GT Omega car, maybe trying to go for that 0-stop strategy, which is available, as we have seen a change of position. Matthew Galea has gone behind Giuseppe Saracino without too many worries of that. So Galea down into turn number 1. DRS was open and available for Saracino. He did come from a long way back, but there on the brakes, there weren't going to be any real worries about it. Down the inside, Galea leads the room, and that is pretty much as simple as you are going to find those kinds of overtake in this race. So keep an eye on Konrad Zarebiec, though. You know he is quicker right now than Nick Bracci, and it is plain to see that that gap has come down to a second and a half over the course of this one. So maybe there is going to be a twist in the tail. There is going to be a position that could be changed. Same could be said for 8th and 9th, because Argenis Riera has caught back Lorenzo Emili out on circuit, as they all try and get themselves closer and closer in terms of this battle right now. Not close enough is anyone at this point to be really dealing with this at the moment, as Nathan Mifsud decides he is going to dive down in onto pit lane. Once again, he will be in and he will be out in the blink of an eye right now. So we'll see how this is going to play out then for these drivers, who will be looking to try and get themselves going forward over the course of this race. So Argenis Riera close into turn 4, but he's not going to be close enough at this point in time. He wants to try and gain these positions, but he's just not there at the moment. Lorenzo Emili is just keeping himself as an equal at this point in time, and there are no worries to be said here after this. We're on lap 20 of 30 right now, and they know there is not long left in this race. 1/3 of the distance remaining to go out there to get the moves that get the one position that is needed here in this one, as Zarebiec has actually just run wide down at up at turn 12 there. So was trying to really chase down one Mr. Nick Bracci, and I'm not quite sure how wide he went, whether it was just a case of the dirty air effect causing havoc through the right-hander. It looked like he missed the apex and just ran wide there through that section. So no worries this time. Keeps the drag reduction system in full flow as he looks towards turn number 1, and is not close enough to get himself there. They are both catching Dean Vella, though, who is trying to hold on and catching at a run. What's the gap? 3 seconds at the moment now. So that was up at 7-8 seconds earlier on. Here comes Zarebiec. Not close enough, though. Down up into the right of turn number 4. Gets a good run off the exit, though. Maybe has a look inside. No, not quite there. So still time to fight and to get exactly what is needed out on circuit. But for the time being, it is not quite there at the moment between those two right now. But it is the closest battle that we have on track by a fair distance right now. So rFactor got to line this up properly here. He's got to look at the inside, and he does so. Can he slow it down on the brakes? Going to be fought hard here by Nick Bracci, but Bracci's out of road at a corner, which really does emphasize reaching that outside first. And there is the overtake that gets it sorted for Konrad Zarebiec to move up into 5th place. It'll be very soon 4th place, because Dean Vella at this point in time is nearly 3 seconds a lap slower than Konrad Zarebiec. He's already 2 seconds a lap slower, and there should be DRS. Dean Vella is struggling on the tyres, and in fact will dive down onto the lane for an Uber overcut, so to speak. He'll get the tyres and he will absolutely run. He is the longest on anybody here on the tyres. He went a magnificent 21 laps, or 20 laps even, on a stretch of tyres. So we'll see where Vella is going to come out in comparison to everybody else. He gets off for the jacks, he gets himself away, and he will be looking to hit that line quickly. He's down in 9th place at the moment. Saracino heading over the start-finish line right now should be able to get him here as they all head into turn number 1, and not quite close enough. So Dean Vella gets exactly what he wants there in that situation. He gets a perfect run through, but just look at his machine. It looks like he's billowing a little bit of smoke out there at the moment. Was he too aggressive on the upshift potentially? Has he damaged the engine? Potentially. It looks like he's got it all sorted, so no real worries at the moment for him. But there was a heart-in-mouth moment there as he went on through, but there are no heart-in-mouth moments at the moment for your race leader. Craig Baxter will touch wood, try and make sure that he doesn't have any issues to speak of. But look at that gap. It's 12 seconds now at the front field. It's been a masterclass in driving on your own for Craig Baxter. You're not going to see many better drives in many races. Luis Felipe Capamagian is one of the drivers that can consistently say that he has the capabilities to challenge some of the world's very best, like Jernej Simoncic's, the Risto Capitson Co's, as he looks at his sim racing career, the Brazilian. And Craig Baxter has effectively said, well, I have absolutely demolished you over the course of racing here today, and I'm not sure how you are going to find 13 seconds worth of pace at the next race, but who knows? It'll be available. Sam Carpenter as well has been racing well, has kept Luis Felipe Capamagian in check. The gap 3.2 seconds between those two at the moment, and very much staying at 3.2 seconds at this point in time. There's a spinner. Oh, it's Saracino once again, and it's down at turn number 1. It's been the story of Saracino's race. He's had all the pace, but he's had all the time the car pointing in the wrong direction, which has not been ideal for Saracino. Into turn number 1. Oh, I think he was spooked there by the lap traffic in front, or the driver in front there, Dean Vella, who'd just come out of pit lane. So Saracino was able to recover it, get himself back going again, and in 10th place, I think that's it. I think he's pulled the car over and retired it. He has, from 10th position. So Saracino, ultimately, his race is over. That will promote Galea up now into 10th place overall, and everybody else will be gaining just a little bit more in terms of position. The same shame to see Saracino stop in terms of this race, but with nothing really to fight for. What was his reason to continue out on track? But there are still maybe a few stories left. Dean Vella trying to chase down Lorenzo Emili and Argenis Riera. That might be what we see for the remainder of this race. Dean Vella in 1.8 seconds of Lorenzo Emili, and that gap looks like it is going to come down over this sector. It now comes to 1.5 seconds. Dean Vella is matching leader's pace at the moment, and the gap is coming down between second and third. That now down 2.8 seconds now on the road. So Capamagian may just be looking behind and hoping that his race is not going to end in troubles, as it nearly did for the lap traffic actually there just in front, which would be Daniel Merton, who has very much found the very dusty outside of this circuit once again, and that wouldn't have been very helpful in terms of his run forward in how this race is going to be run. Back though to Dean Vella, we should go, because the GT Omega car is going to look to try and get into position here to be within a second. He got the gap down to 9:10 going over that section of road. And ultimately, not too many problems from that point onwards. But now he's got to catch and pass. And that's going to be crucial, because if he can get past quickly, you may have a run here at 7th place. And Argenis Riera, who is only 2.8 seconds down the road from Lorenzo Emili. See how hard Dean Vella is pushing, try and close that gap down. And the same can be said for the man in 3rd place, Sam Carpenter, who's got the gap down under 2 seconds. It's down to 1.8 now between Carpenter and Capamagian in terms of their little scrap as they look for everything they possibly can here in this race. It's no guarantee that the move will be made, but what will be the guarantee is that it's going close between those drivers as they have themselves 7 laps to go here at the wondrous Bahrain circuit as they move on forward. Vella stuck now at 1.2 seconds back, needs to close that gap down a little more, needs to be a bit neater on those fresher tyres and use the capabilities, use the advantage that is so very firmly there at this point in time. Baxter has taken the foot off the pedal a little bit. He's let the gap come back down to 11 seconds, but he doesn't matter if he wins by a second or a minute or a mile, it would say at this point in time. He is in control with Capamagian there in second, having to push hard here because the gap is 1.9 seconds behind him to Sam Carpenter, who is trying to chase this one again. And on that first sector, that will be coming up shortly here, so we'll see what the difference maker is. Gap down to 1.7, 2/10 then in the opening sector from Sam Carpenter. That's perfect for what he wants to achieve out here on circuit. He wants to find as much improvement as possible. Dean Vella, though, again, closing down the gap through the final corner, will want some DRS, drag reduction system, to try and give some extra kph to get the moves done a little bit earlier. The wing flaps open, that's clear signs. He's within a second, he's 7/10 back, but he won't get it done surely into turn number 1. He will close that right up behind to about 3/10 of a second, and then hope that this rest of the run is going to be in favour. Immediately now having to look behind at every given corner here, and immediately comes the move. It's well scouted by Emili, who ran in deep and had the move scouted there from Dean Vella. You're not going to be so forthright, but your nose down the inside at the first opportunity and get the move, Dean. You're going to have to try and find it a different way in this race. But there is also the curious case of Sam Carpenter, gap down 1.5 seconds now for second position. That's going to be a little concerning as they move on through. It could be a case of disaster at the moment for Capamagian, who will have to defend if things stay like this with 6 laps to go here at this circuit. 5 laps to go at the moment. They start on lap 26 now as they move on forward. So keep an eye on this. This could have all the makings of disaster for second and for third, as Dean Vella again struggling to get into range to attack Lorenzo Emili, who seemingly on older tyres is as much of a match at the moment for Dean Vella. Heading through the right of penultimate corner, Emili has not made mistakes in this race. He's just been unlucky and caught having to make a front wing change after an incident with Giuseppe Saracino. So able to deal with that he has, but now he's trying to deal with Dean Vella, who is still making good progress at this point in time. Gap second and third, now 1.2 seconds. It is clear that Capamagian will be caught between now and the end of this race. The question is, how does Sam Carpenter make the move? Because at turn 1, he has been going a little bit too deep, and that will be the one worry that will be going through his head at the moment here on lap 26, starting lap 27 now. So hopefully there are no dramas, there are no issues here for Sam Carpenter. 1.3 heading through turn 1, and just every single lap that gap closing and closing and closing, with a driver off the circuit in a bit of trouble out on track. I didn't quite catch who that was. I believe it was Alessio Spinelli, but I cannot guarantee it was Alessio Spinelli who was off the circuit down at turn number 13, but I will get a look and see whether it was at that place, and it seemed actually for all the money in the world like it was Martin Garrido. So Garrido running himself into issues right now. He's in his own scrap with Matthew Galea here for 11th place, so he will need to get past pretty quickly if he wants that extra one here, as they deal with their own scraps of lap traffic at the moment on circuit. So that won't be doing many favours there as they go through. Garrido and Galea, and I believe that will be Nick Bracci who was trying to deal with that scrap as well. A lap ahead. Galea and Garrido side by side almost here. Into the left that comes along at turn 10, and again, not close enough, but Galea proving he's equal on pace with the driver in 5th place, that being Nick Bracci at the moment. Sam Carpenter, though, has found a brick wall. The brick wall is 1.3 seconds. He's got to get within 1 at the moment. Kapamadzian has turned up the whip slightly, and with 3 laps to go, this is going to be a tough challenge to try and get this move sorted out on track. There are no real surprises here in terms of this from Sam Carpenter. He's trying to get there, but the question becomes, has the tyres just worn out on him? And if that is the case, remember, Kapamadzian was later to stop by a couple of laps compared to Sam Carpenter, then maybe Sam Carpenter does not have anything in terms of tyre life. Go out there and fight with a fantastic tyre model, which is world-renowned in rFactor 2. So, Luis Felipe Kapamadzian able to hold that position. In terms of that battle between Vella and Emili, back into 1 second goes Dean Vella, but he's stuck at 7/10 once again. He's going to have to be bold and brave here on the break if he wants to make a move, but again, not there to try and make that happen. Galea wins out at the moment against Garrido, and Alessio Spinelli is with them as well. So this is 11th, 12th, and 13th. All a lap down. Oh, there's Garrido making the mistake. Too much power on the exit. And around he goes in at the 13th position, and that will cost him 1 more spot. And 1 more spot seemingly means all the world. Carpenter now 1.2 seconds back. And again, just stuck with 2 laps to go. Needs some help. And at the moment, Luis Felipe Kapamadzian, their very, very aggressive line into turn number 1. I thought he spun it for a moment. It was that aggressive as they went on through. I expect the gap to be down under a second, though, at this point. It was 1.2 seconds for second place. That gap now stands here at the opening sector to be 1 second and 100th less than that. So inside DRS range now for the first time, a psychological advantage for Sam Carpenter, who will now try and use that to his powers. That may be as they go forward. 1 vehicle goes off in front of them down at the hairpin, and that is, well, close to a hairpin as possible that this track has. Nathan Mifsud was that driver who had just run off the circuit, but Dean Vella all of a sudden has the shot for his move right now here as he looks at 8th place. Emili's going to force him all the way to the pit wall. Gave him the pit wall, and he still made the move here on the brakes down the inside. Not over yet. Still going to fight it and transfer it all the way up the hill. All bit of contact there between Vella and Emili. Not enough to knock the front wing off, but maybe slightly a bit of damage there as they head through up into turn 4. Has he got the move sorted? Around the outside. Bang! Contact between them. Dean Vella goes around. That felt like 2 into 1. Maybe Emili could have left more space. That's up for the stewards to decide. But that was an incident that has decided that battle. And maybe the stewards have to decide something here on the last lap then of this race. Luis Felipe Kapamadzian, 1.4 seconds clear as off into the grass goes Nathan Mifsud in desperate avoidance of those he was seeing in front fight, or those behind at the time that were fighting. But you can't look past the man who is currently leading this one, Craig Baxter. We haven't talked about him too much here today because what else is there to say when you are absolutely flying at a rate of what is now half a second a lap? He has been quicker than all of his competition. He's 14 seconds down the road, and he has not stopped for breath either when he has done it. Some would call him a flying Scotsman. I would call him more than a bullet train. He seems to be a man on a mission for a Thrustmaster FFB Pro as he makes his way down the hill, looking for the final corner to come along to him. And Craig Baxter will round that said corner in absolutely impervious fashion. And he will go to cross the start-finish line. And he will take the victory in 45 minutes and 36 seconds with a dominant display. Overall magic work. Kapamajian will come home to take second position, and Sam Carpenter will come home with third place overall. It'll be a long wait for Konrad Zarebiec in fourth place, as he is 45 seconds away from the race lead. So he will look and see that his race is pretty much all she and wrote at this point in time. We are going to be getting updates soon with the Amelie battle with Dean Vella to see what stewards have come up with at this point in time, and that accident that happened earlier on. But you're going to see the likes of Daniele Spaldi, one lap down, Matthew Galea and co with Spinelli. They're also going to be finishing this race one lap down. Martin Garrido going to be a long way from home in terms of the way that his race ended up for him. The last few drivers will be needing to make their way over the start-finish line. Lorenzo Emili will be one of them, but I think he may just be copping a post-race penalty here for this one, as he will make his way over the start-finish line. The contact not ideal through that section. Dean Vella will provisionally be finished ninth, and there will be a 10-second time penalty given to Lorenzo Emili. That will drop him behind Dean Vella. So Baxter picks up the win then by almost 15 seconds over Luis Felipe Capamagian. Sam Carpenter third with Konrad Zarebiec in fourth. Nick Bracci fifth. Lorenzo Capellini in sixth. And it's Argenis Riera in seventh. Lorenzo Emili demoted to ninth with Dean Vella promoted to eighth. Daniele Spadi will be up into 10th place overall. Matthew Galea 11th, a lap down with Alessio Spinelli. Martin Garrido also a lap down. Nathan Mifsud, a tough day at the office, 2 laps down. Same for Daniel Merchant, and then Saracino, Barbakov, Bowden, Colas and Teichmann, the ones who failed to find themselves finish here today. But there is some very, very big racing. That was very well worked in terms of how that was going to be run in terms of a very strong race. But there are still going to be some interviews coming up in just one moment's time, ladies and gentlemen. We will get you the top 3 available to us at this moment in time. But that, I would say, is a pretty big statement for an opening race. 15 seconds over 30 laps, half a second a lap. You're not going to find too many races that end in exactly the same fashion. You can mark my words on that. Sam Carpenter, though, stands by with us. He finished third position overall. And Sam, it seemed like in the final couple of moments over the course of that race, you were reeling in Luis Felipe at a rate of a couple of tenths of a second every single lap. It just seemed to me like you ran out of tyre.
Yeah, although I think his were just as bad at the end. It was just, it's so hard being in the dirty areas, chasing for so long, and everything hurts, and it's just really, really hard to keep that up the whole time. By the time we got to the end, I think we were both on the canvas. So,
well, both down for the count, but ultimately a race where a lot of the drivers around you ended up running into issues. Talk about the early stages, though, for the moment here, Sam, because it seemed like your braking marker into turn number 1 was sometimes a little bit adventurous,
yeah.
But ultimately it still got you the job done on a couple of overtakes.
Well, I think it might have been a combination of the overspeed and just my braking late in general, because I'm obviously filling with the brake bias forwards and backwards through the race. But my braking point was a lot later than I can't remember who it was I was battling with in the first stint, but I was up behind him and I could brake about 50 meters later than him and make the apex, or at least make a decent line through the corner. And it was just throwing me off a little bit, having he might have been getting a better run on the way out, but I was getting a better run on the way in. And when it's so different between you, it's kind of hard to battle at that point. But yeah, it's first few laps were a bit crazy at times. I had damage all the way through the race that I got on the first lap, and a little bit more with the back marker a few laps in. So nursing that wasn't the most fun thing to do all the way through the race.
And well, dealing with damage, still coming away with a podium. You're looking at the second round of the championship. It's a 5-run championship here. Of course, got the Chinese race at Shanghai. That's going to be the next round on the calendar. So how difficult is that going to be in terms of how do you negotiate a track which has some similar characteristics, of course, both being in the Tilke design?
It's a track I'm somewhat familiar with. It's not. I don't hate it. A lot of people don't like the track, but I don't mind it, to be honest. But yeah, we've got to try and go for that 1-2 every race. That's what we're going for. I just hope that we can have a few less incidents. Craig had a great race, but I hope that I can get up there on the front row in qualifying and hope to just stay out of incidents next race. That's the aim.
Well, before we let you go, Sam, third place. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you, buddy?
Well, Vitesse Design hopefully making a comeback soon. I just want to say thanks to AOR as well for getting me back into rFactor 2 after a while, and that's kind of flying the flag for them at the moment as part of the moderator team for those guys.
And of course, Apex Online Racing, the place where I got my start actually in sim racing commentator. So big shout out to them in terms of what they've been able to do. So Sam Carpenter there, coming home with third position. Craig Baxter, though, a very dominant race victory, also stood by with me right now. Craig, you got it done at turn 1, and then everybody had a nice little party behind you, and you had nothing to do but to drive around on the Sunday for about 30 laps.
Yeah, the only sort of excitement I had was missing back markers or people spinning in front of me, really. Just kind of tried to control the race as best as possible. First time properly doing a race in a few months, so just getting back into the swing of things, really.
And well, what a way to get back into the swing of things, taking a dominant victory at a rate of half a second a lap every single lap. It seemed like everything was going well. You were consistently gaining to a tune of about 5 seconds, and then all of a sudden you found yourself 4 seconds quicker in the stop. Just how confident now must you feel heading to China in what is going to be in 1 week's time?
I mean, I'm glad Bahrain was first because it's one of my favourite tracks, and then I go to China where it's probably my least favourite. So in terms of actually being quick or anything, I'm pretty confident, but at the track, that's probably the least confidence I would have at a track.
And well, now looking at, say, okay, a good start to a season, especially when it's a short season like this, how important is it to build momentum early in a championship like this? Oh,
it's absolutely key. I mean, getting off to a great start, especially as well with Sam coming in third, it's perfect for constructors as well.
Well, perfect constructors, and well, talking about constructors, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you, my friend?
Same as Sam, Vitesse Design, and obviously AOR. So that's who we're basically, as Sam said, flying the flag for. So hopefully we can bring it home.
Well, bringing it home, it is working for you. A race win, and absolutely fantastic. A 1-3 finish then for the team. Luis Felipe Capamagian is second, and that's where my mind was wandering. Luis, you're someone who typically gets up towards the front of these sorts of fields, and ultimately you found that today maybe just one bridge too far in terms of Craig's performance.
Yes. First, let me thank Craig and Sam for the podium. And yes, I was struggling with the setup. I'm getting used to the car. I didn't get a good lap on the qualification, but in the start, I don't know how I managed to finish second and end the race in that way. Saving tires and all that.
Let's talk about the opening lap then, because it seemed like incredibly quickly you went from about 6th, 7th on the grid to fighting for first position out at turn 4. Just how lightning was that start?
Yes, I don't know how I did it, to be honest, but it was really enjoying. I was laughing while I was driving. But yes, I was going to dive bump into Craig, but I said no. I have passed a lot of cars, so let's keep the mind on the championship and let's look forward for the next one. The next one I will make a decent setup. Now I have just a few tweaks, so we lack of a setup.
Well, a decent setup needed. China is the next destination as we head to the Shanghai International Circuit, a track which is very heavy on tyres through the opening sector, has that big 1 kilometre long straight on the back. How difficult is that race going to be? Knowing that setup is very much, you've got to be good in one area to compromise in another.
Yes, it's very complicated. You have to lose in one thing to gain in another. So let's hope we can find a good
balance, hopefully. But shout out sponsors, Luis. Who gets it done for you, buddy?
Yeah, let me thank RPM Esports for the confidence. Thanks for them. I am.
Well, big thanks there from Luis Felipe Capamagian, who gets second position overall, and that will bring the curtain down on proceedings here today in what is this Thrustmaster World Pro Racing F19 Short Series opener here from Bahrain. We head to China in 1 week's time, as we have said, for about 4 times now in the past 5 minutes here on World Pro Racing. This is the only place you can catch it on Facebook, on Twitch, and also on YouTube as well. A massive thanks to everyone who has been tuning in and watching. Special thanks, of course, have to go to Thrustmaster, who has supported this series along as the title sponsor, along with Melita, Visit Malta, and of course Malta Gaming areas as well as that. From the stewarding that has been George Muscat and Adrian Fagayo as race director. We've also had Justin Mifsud on the cameras for us here this afternoon, and I, of course, have been Jake Sperry. Baxter's shine is going to be a grin from ear to ear. He picks up the win by a very comfortable margin. He set down a big benchmark and said, catch me if you can, as we head to Shanghai in 1 week's time. We'll catch you then here on World Pro Racing.
simple truth.